The whole field of intellectual property actually stemmed out of a practice that was very much like gatekeeping by proxy. When first the patent office was created, the only people who knew how to talk to the patent office were people who worked in the patent office. So if you wanted to become a patent attorney, it used to be that the only way you could become a patent attorney before the internet was actually by becoming a patent examiner first. And so most of these examiners would go out and they would have this experience in their youth, and they would go into the patent office and become an examiner. They would learn it from the patent office inside, and then they would come out and they would start representing people from the outside. And that's how the OGs did it. Those are, if you've got patent examiner numbers and you're talking about everybody who was like prior to 40,000, right? Those guys are like the OGs. They went back, they they did it a long, hard path that took them years to achieve. And and so then slowly things started kind of expanding because those guys realized what kind of power they had, and then they started like law firms, and they were like, I've worked in the patent office, so you should all come learn from me. And so then we all did, and I was one of them. I started in oh God, the late 90s. And I began, I was such a baby. My brain wasn't even done cooking. I think I was 22 years old when I started in the field. I learned IP before I learned a lot of other things about life. And it's the only law that I've ever practiced or been part of. So I'm a little bit unique in that regard because a lot of people go in and out of different fields, but I only know intellectual property. I'm also a creator myself and somebody who is starting my own business, and that's part of how I kind of ended up talking about this at all. Yesterday, I participated in something online that was supposed to be informative about starting a business and things like this, and it was done by somebody that showed up in my inbox, and it had a name that was really similar to something I had read someplace else, like several books that I had read with a very, very similar title. And so I clicked and I signed up because I thought, oh, this is that person. And I think I read a few of those books, like, I don't know, 5 years ago. And now that was like a self-help thing. And now they look like they're doing business. Oh, that's interesting. Let me see what they have to say. So I click on this link and I end up there, and I find myself in a place that I'm not familiar with. I don't know this person. I'll be honest, they're not really my energy. Um, I'm listening and I'm like, all right, well, they're an attorney, and they're an expert, and I do respect experts, and I understand that everybody's got something to bring. So I don't know everything from a small business solopreneur perspective about what you really want to look for as far as nuance goes. So it's like, maybe this guy will give me some insight from a legal perspective that I haven't had from the inside big business. And so I'm following him to listen to hear what he has to say and point out some things, and I'm kind of putting some things together while he's talking, but he says some things that are confusing to me. And they just kind of, I'm like, that's weird. What a weird thing to say. What a weird thing to say. I don't understand this, and that's interesting. And okay, so all right, well, I'm listening to this, and it's all, oh, help me, I can help you find a search and do the search, and then once you do the search, then you file the application. And yeah, that's usually true. And that's usually the process. And so, they're out there, and they're looking for searches. They want you to call them and do your search with them. And file the application. And there's all this, hey, these guys really helped me. They filed my application right away, and it happened so fast, and it was all so convenient. And there's not a lot of conversation about what happens next. Right? But this is an attorney, I had to leave that meeting early, so I wasn't able to stay to see how it turns out. Did they cover this and I just didn't get to see it or not? And so I click back on the replay because they send it to me afterwards, and I take a look, and there's not really a lot of discussion about what happens next. It's all about how to start and what's going on. And it makes me wonder, does everybody who's doing this really know what this entails? Because step one is filing the application, and that's like day one of like a years long process. And I definitely did not feel I understood that when I came out of this learning session from this attorney. And so it makes me wonder, do you know that? Because I know that. I've been working in the field for a long time, and I know how long this takes. When you're really, really good, when you have all your ducks in a row and everything's right where it needs to be, and you've done it for long enough that you can just file it and get it done, I know how long that takes. And I know how long that takes for you to have the idea and to put it together and to do it from soup to nuts, from very beginning to end, and today is day zero. So I know what timelines are for this, and I can tell you that none of them stop after the application. Application is step one. Filing for the application is step one, and sometimes just that process is 5 years long. Actually, most times it is. It's big businesses that tend to do it the other way. Unless, I don't know, you guys decide to start listening to somebody like me who's like, hey, I know what you should do, but this is about protocol and operations and intellectual property. And you just say those words out loud and everybody goes, I don't want to listen anymore. So that's why I'm Jackie, all right? I'm Jackie. I'm a little bit more interesting than just IP. I can help you make this so that your eyes don't cross. But then also, y'all, this is complicated, all right? It's complicated. And if your eyes are glazing over talking to me, you should think hard about whether or not you're paying somebody an hourly rate to do this for you. Okay?